Look, joining us now, and you know we got into the story yesterday, suddenly when it realised, what was the name of the guy yesterday, the guy from the council? Danny Schroeder, who's the commercial operations manager for, well, they've got a marrying name basically for the Christchurch City Council venues. Danny, having basically agreed, and there was a contract, no consideration had been given, there was a contract for a guy called Graham Linehan, who is a world-famous comic, though for some reason the media here describe him as an anti-trans activist who just happens to have written some of the funniest television in the last 20 years in Britain, including Father Ted. Graham Linehan is touring New Zealand with the Free Speech Union, and they had booked Hagley Park. And suddenly, even though they'd basically done all the email, the venue was booked, Danny Schroeder from the Christchurch City Council rang just days ahead of the event and said, we're all booked up, dreadfully sorry, how sad, never mind. Well, I was glad that story was picked up by our mate Chris Lynch of Chris Lynch Media in Christchurch. And he knows Christchurch better than we do, better than Ben does, better than I do. So I thought we'd get Chris on to tell us what's going on with Cancel Culture Christchurch City Council. Chris, welcome back to the platform, mate. Nice to have you with us.
Nice to speak to you, Sean.
All right. So you got into this yesterday. What's been going on? What have you found out?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. So thanks to the guys at the platform, you do amazing work. And when I saw the story there that he'd been cancelled, Graham had been cancelled, I thought, well, let's do a bit of digging. So I tried to make contact with Danny, emailed him and also text messaged him. Didn't receive anything from him, which I thought was a little bit bizarre because he likes to speak normally. But oddly then, about a couple of hours later, to her credit, I received a written statement. Slightly terse, I suppose. It was very bullet pointy. It wasn't a very an email as such. It just had bullet points to the questions that I asked, but at least they responded. This was from...
Now, I'm checking, is Danny a bloke or a Sheila?
Well, what is a woman, Sean?
Oh, no, we're not getting transgender here. I presume Danny was a bloke.
No, just joking.
Okay.
No, I think... well, I'm just saying, you just don't know these days.
You've got to be very careful.
No. That's right. Danny's a bloke. So I did receive a written statement though from Venues Otatahi CEO Carolyn Harvey-Tier. Now she maintains, like we've been hearing, that the booking was declined because there was insufficient resources available. And listen, I mean, she tried to use, I guess, the email as a chance for her to publicise all the amazing events, but I removed those from the story, so I'm not here to, to give them free hits. But basically, the next couple of weeks, to be fair, is looking really, really chocker for Christchurch. She does claim that the forecast for March is the busiest on record since the 2010-2011 earthquakes. Once again, don't doubt that to be not the case. 14 events being delivered across a suite of venues, she says, and they need additional, this is the interesting bit, Sean, she claims the nature of this event and venue required would mean they would need additional senior staff, none of which were available due to already being deployed to other venues and events.
Well, what senior staff? What additional senior staff?
Well, I'd like to know that myself. Now, we asked her whether or not they'd received complaints and whether the complaints from some members of the public forced their hand or influenced the way they decided to cancel this. She says that Venues Otatahi received around 15 complaints, that's 15 complaints from the public with respect to the acceptance of this event. So they did actually accept
They've admitted they accepted and booked the venue. Yep, that's good.
Correct. And I mean, that's a slightly contradictory statement from other words that she's written, to be fair. Now, she says these complaints have not contributed to the decision to decline the event. So make what you want from that. Interesting though, she wasn't happy to speak on camera or on record or be recorded rather. She said Venues Otatahi declined to speak in person with regard to this matter and have no further comment to make at this time. Just to provide perhaps some context for your listeners, I know this was noted, I guess. She was the person who was very instrumental in changing the name V-Base, which was the council-owned company that runs all the events and runs all the operations locations of some of these venues to
Venues Otatahi.
Otatahi. And this happened.
What does Otatahi mean? Does that mean Christchurch in Maori?
Yes, it does.
Okay,
apparently.
Thank you. Thanks for the translation. What's her name again?
welcome.
Carolyn?
Oh, hang on, now you're making me ask questions and it's more
Carolyn Harvey something. Is it one of those double banger Canterbury names?
Yeah. Yeah. Carolyn Harvey Tier. So she decided to actually change the name at the height of the pandemic, by the way, in about sort of early 2021. This was not long after they, got rid of a lot of their staff because of the pandemic. Claiming that it was good to sort of reflect more on Christchurch. So, I think that's sort of, interesting for your listeners, perhaps.
This still smells bloody dodgy, Chris. I'm sorry, it doesn't. We've had 15 complaints. We did accept the booking. That's the important thing. They've let their slip show. They did accept the booking, then they withdrew.
As Jonathan said on your program yesterday, that he contacted Venues Otatahi about 3 weeks ago, and the booking was then accepted 2 weeks ago. No money changed hands because he says that
they didn't want payment till afterwards.
Yeah, that's correct. That's the way they work their business practices. And, of course, he's called this whole thing really spineless. So I guess, Sean, we will find out more once an Official Information Act request is accepted and we hear back from the Free Speech Union as to whether or not there was some kind of verbal contract or something or other. I mean, she maintains nothing was signed, nothing was sealed, nothing was paid for.
Yeah, she sounds like a bit of a liar, to be honest, Chris. And if the fact she won't front with for an interview with you, and I know you do. You're well connected to that community. I'm amazed.
To be honest, Sean, when I read at the very end that they're not speaking in person in regards to the matter and no further comment will be made at this time. I mean, at the end of the day, of course, she'll claim that she's looking after her stakeholders, but what she fails to remember is that the stakeholders are, in fact, the ratepayers of Christchurch, and there have been plenty of people on both sides of the argument, I suppose, that have been commenting on my Facebook page saying they want to know more information.